Welcome to the weekly current affairs session at Narayana IAS Academy. Today, we are going to deal with 10 most important news articles which are relevant for your upcoming examinations, and these are the articles from this last week. So, the first article is related to Einstein ring. Recently, Euclid Space Telescope. This telescope belongs to European Space Agency. This telescope discovered new Einstein ring in a nearby galaxy. Now for us, it is important to know what do we mean by this particular ring, Einstein ring. And when we are using the term Einstein, that means there is some contribution of Einstein because of which these phenomena are being described right now. So to understand this, we need to study the concept of gravitational lensing. Now this is very important. What we all know about the gravity and the light phenomena in the universe is that light always travels in the straight line. We all have studied this part, that light will travel in the straight line. It doesn't bend anywhere. This is the normal understanding that we have. But when we studied theory of relativity given by Albert Einstein, with those studies we got to know that light does not necessarily always travel in a straight line. Whenever, let's say, the light is traveling from one position, let's say here we have a star from which light is coming up. Now this light is traveling in the straight line, but in case there is a massive object over here, in that case, because of this massive object, this light is going to bend a little bit. It will not go straight, rather it will bend. This bending of light was clearly shown by Einstein. Okay, and this is the phenomena what we call as gravitational lensing. It occurs when massive objects such as galaxies, black holes, they bend the path of light from a distant source. This is gravitational lensing, because just like lenses work in the similar fashion, this gravitational lensing is taking place. Okay, now when you understand this part, now you can understand what is Einstein ring. So let's say we have a telescope over here. This telescope is trying to take image of this particular galaxy or any planet or any star. Okay, now we want to take image using this telescope. But there is another galaxy far away and some light is coming from that galaxy. But because this gravitational lensing takes place, wherein this light does not travel in straight line, rather it bends a little bit. Now because it bends, we do not see the exact image of this galaxy as it is on the telescope. Rather, we see some additional layer over here. So this is the image of galaxy we are getting in telescope, and we see additional stuff over here. Now usually when all these three are in same alignment, in the same line, this distant galaxy and the galaxy or object or any matter that we are observing and our telescope, when they are all in one line, then you will observe this additional ring kind of a structure around this particular galaxy. And this ring is being named as Einstein ring. Obviously, because Einstein, through theory of relativity, had provided this knowledge to us that light will bend when there is a massive thing like any black hole or any massive galaxy. Okay, so this is the basic part you should know. So between 1915 to 1960, Einstein formulated this theory of relativity. In 1919, Sir Arthur Eddington, he confirmed this gravitational bending of light, and in 1988, for the first time we saw or observed Einstein ring. And right now we have found one more Einstein ring in a nearby galaxy. So all these studies, all these discoveries are going to be very helpful for scientists. First of all, this validates this Einstein's general relativity theory. Second, it will be very helpful to study dark matter. So if you look at universe, usually what we say when we look at any matter, we expect that this matter is going to provide us with some kind of light. Okay, most of the matter that we observe in universe, there is some light over there, but there is substantial part of this universe where there is no light, and that matter part is called as dark matter. It is somewhere around 30% of universe total mass energy. So if you look at entire universe, 30% part is dark matter. You don't see anything over there, it's completely black. And when we are studying this dark matter, all these studies, these Einstein ring discoveries, these are going to be very much helpful. Okay, so this is the first article. Now moving ahead with the second article of the day. This talks about India launching multi-nation alliance for collaboration on sustainable development. Now, what exactly has India done? So recently, India has launched Cities Coalition for Circularity, C3. Cities Coalition for Circularity at 12th Regional Forum. This is the forum, 3R Forum, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle. Now see, there is one forum which works in the field of bringing what we call as an economy which is of circular kind. Okay, that's why we use these terms, reduce, reuse, recycle. So we have a forum. The forum is something where people will come. People could be some stakeholders. Let's say some businessmen, let's say some government personnel, let's say some NGO personnel. All these people will come, all these stakeholders will come and discuss things. Discussion will go on for the sake of solving issues. Now, the core discussion takes place over here on the topic of circular economy. Now, we need circular economy because right now we are observing increasing waste material. So, to reduce waste material, we are looking for a solution in circular economy. Now, what is circular economy? So our economic model, we will run in such a manner that we are going to reduce the amount of waste that is produced over here. In case the waste is getting produced, we will reuse that waste so that the amount of waste will be reduced and it will be reused, or rather recycled and reused. So in a circular economy, we have some raw materials, then we go for a sustainable design. We produce it, we distribute it, we consume it, we collect it. See, after consumption, we are not throwing away the waste material. Rather, we are collecting that material from the garbage or whatever it is. Then we will use that residual waste, we'll do the waste management part, and we will use the same material as raw material again. So this is how this circular economy will function, or we want that circular economy to function. Now, as far as India is concerned, India has some commitment towards circular economy, and we can observe that in these schemes like Swachh Bharat Mission, Smart Cities Mission, National Resource Efficiency Policy, Extended Producer Responsibility Framework, etc. So to give you an example, if you study this Extended Producer Responsibility Framework, it says that the producer has responsibility to collect whatever waste material is produced. Let's say, for example, there is a company producing any kind of plastic material. So let's say some wafer packets or something. So those wafer packets are there in a plastic material. So it is the producer's responsibility to collect that plastic so that it can be recycled again. So such frameworks, such missions clearly show that India wants to build in this circular economy. Okay, and related to this circular economy is this 3R Circular Economy Forum. 3R and Circular Economy Forum. Now this forum was launched in the year 2009. Objective was very clear, to bring in circular economy. The forum was supposed to bring in people, policymakers, industry leaders, researchers, development partners. Everyone will come together and discuss this angle of reducing, reusing and recycling stuff. Now, here the key milestone of this forum has been Hanoi 3R Declaration of 2013 to 2023. Okay, then we have this 12th forum which we are discussing. In this forum, India has launched Cities Coalition for Circularity. So if you look at this Cities Coalition for Circularity, it was launched on March 3rd, 2025. The objective of this particular initiative is very clearly city to city collaboration. So the point is, we want that different cities should collaborate. Now, why we are talking about cities? Because in the cities we see more waste getting produced because of urbanization. And when the urbanization goes in an unplanned manner, we observe more of that issue. So here, city to city collaboration for sustainable urban development. And for that, we are going to use this circular economy principles of reduce, reuse, recycle. So under this initiative, there is a total mechanism which has been created, an institutional mechanism which has been created. So a working group which will include people from different countries, that is member nations, they'll be working here. They'll develop complete framework, operational framework. They are going to conduct these forums wherein policy dialogue, capacity building, all these things will happen. Private sector will also be part of this institutional mechanism. And this is how they are going to focus on waste management, resource efficiency, knowledge sharing, public private partnership, etc. Okay, so this is quite an important cities coalition for circularity initiative, we can say. Okay, now moving ahead, the third article of the day or third article of the week. Study finds 6327 Gangetic dolphins across 4 states of India. So recently, Ministry of Environment conducted a comprehensive study or a survey, we can say. This study has said that there are total more than 6,000 Gangetic dolphins in just 4 states of India. Those states are Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, and West Bengal. Now, see, we should know about Gangetic dolphins because in prelims you can expect some factual question on this particular species. It's a very important species. See, Gangetic dolphins, they are found in Ganges, Brahmaputra, Meghna, and Karnafuli Sangur river systems. So overall, if you have to see, you will observe that these rivers are there or their basin is found in India, Nepal, as well as Bangladesh. All 3 countries are involved over here. Now see, this Gangetic dolphin is also named as Susu or Tiger of Ganga. Very interesting name over here. Now, if you look at the IUCN status or conservation status, so in the IUCN red list, this species is termed as endangered species. In the Wildlife Protection Act, in the Schedule 1, it has been added. And in the CITES list, in the Appendix 1, we observe this dolphin. Now, you should know some basic part like this particular dolphin. It is known for inhabiting in the fresh water only. So you will not see Gangetic dolphin in brackish water or in oceanic parts because they require fresh water. Okay, this is one important fact. Second, they do not see things properly. They are near to blind. And because of this, for any kind of communication or for any kind of activity, they use echolocation. So what they will do is they'll produce some ultrasonic sound. That sound will be emitted, that sound will go, reach somewhere and then come back. Through this, they will know that something is over there. Okay, this is called echolocation. And if you observe their behavior, then the females are larger than males and they give birth to single calf every 2 to 3 years. Most importantly, this species is also known as indicator species. So if you want to know the health of a particular ecosystem, we look at one or the other species which is highly important. If you completely destroy this species, in that case, entire ecosystem will collapse. And that's the reason we call this Gangetic dolphin as indicator species. It is going to reflect the overall condition of this river ecosystem. So if the river ecosystem is not good, it's highly polluted, it has hypoxic condition as such, in that case you will not see gangetic dolphins over there. Okay, so as it's a very important animal, we have brought many schemes for conservation like Project Dolphin, Vikramshila Gangetic Dolphin Sanctuary, National Dolphin Research Center, and we call this Gangetic dolphin as India's national aquatic animal. So in the year 2009, Government of India clearly notified that we are going to consider this animal as national aquatic animal of India. Okay, it's a very important fact, I would say. Now moving ahead, the next article is related to maternal mortality rate. So India already had a target to achieve in terms of maternal mortality rates, and we have achieved that. This is the news, so it's a very good news, we can say. So our national health policy had set a target, and we have achieved that. What was that target? 100 deaths per 1 lakh live birth. Now first of all, we should know what is this maternal mortality rate. So you see, whenever a woman is pregnant, she is going to give birth to a child, there are very high chances that the mother will die. This death of that mother is termed as maternal mortality, and we calculate a rate, maternal mortality rate. The rate is number of maternal deaths occurring within a specific period of time for every 1 lakh live births. So if 1 lakh children are taking birth, for that, how many mothers are dying? This is calculated with this maternal mortality rate for a particular period. Now, as far as India is concerned, if you see the trend, our MMR rate has declined by 83% from 1990 to 2020, which is a very good number, I can say. Okay. Now, there is one more number, just like maternal mortality rate, which we call as infant mortality rate. Now, this is about how many children die when they are taking birth. But for this data, we don't take 1 lakh live birth for comparison. Rather, we only consider 1000 live births. So, you should remember this difference. Okay. And as far as this IMR is concerned, here also we have reduced it by 69%. So both these numbers show that India is really doing good in maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate. Now, why we have achieved these good numbers? Because we are running many initiatives so that we can reduce this maternal mortality rate. And our target was to achieve 100 deaths, and that we have achieved now. So schemes which are working on this particular segment: Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Matritva Abhiyan, extended strategy Surakshit Matritva Ashwasan, then Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram, this Lakshya initiative, then village health sanitation nutrition day, outreach camps, all these centers like health and wellness centers were made. So you can see there is a list of such programs which are working, which are operational, and that's why we are observing such good results. So it's a good news, we should know about it, and this term is very important, this factual part is very important. Now moving ahead with the next article of the day. Now this article talks about NBFCs, non-banking financial companies. So the article is very much critical. IMF is saying that India's NBFCs, they are at a very high risk. They are taking big risk by giving loans to a particular sector. They are giving loans to just one sector. And if that sector collapses, all the NBFCs will be at a higher risk. Now what's happening exactly? And first of all, we should know what do we mean by this NBFC. I called it non-banking financial company. So just like banks, just like our commercial banks, we have another entity called NBFC. What do banks do? They'll take your money, they'll keep it with themselves, and then they will give the same money as a loan to other members, and from that they will earn some profit. Now we have these NBFCs which are similar to banks, but they are not exactly banks. So why they are similar to banks? Because they also give some kind of loan. They also give loan, but they are different. How they are different? A normal bank will take money from public. NBFC cannot take money from public. So they cannot accept demand deposits just like our commercial banks. Demand deposits means you can deposit money with the bank, and whenever you demand, bank will have to give that money back to you. That's called demand deposit. So your saving account, current account, all these are examples of demand deposits. Now that's possible with banks. That's not possible in case of NBFC. Okay, but they engage in lending, investment, asset financing, and because they are not exactly commercial banks, so they don't get the facilities which are given to the banks. Like RBI provides this liquidity support, like this liquidity adjustment facility. You must have read about repo rate, reverse repo rate, etc. All these are not provided to these NBFCs because they are not officially banks. Now, are they important? Yes, they are important because many companies in India, many MSMEs who are not getting much loans from banks, they go to these agencies and they take loan from them. Now you might say, if they are not taking this, these NBFCs are not taking deposit from public, how are they getting money? So they have different mechanisms. Let's say there can be an NBFC, it's a company. So a company can apply for loan from a commercial bank. So they can take loan from bank. Let's say they've taken loan at 8%, but they will give the loan to others on 12% or 13%, or let's say 15%. So somehow they'll manage to earn money through this process. Now I can show you some NBFCs. So there are two types of NBFCs based on activity. There could be many. For example, asset finance company, loan company, infrastructure finance company, microfinance institution, housing finance. So let's say you're buying a house, then you'll reach out to this housing finance company. They'll say, sir, we will pay your amount for now, you pay us with EMI. Okay, then investment companies. Then there is another categorization based on deposit taking ability. So although it was assumed that NBFCs will not be taking any deposit, but a new categorization came into picture which says there will be some NBFCs which can take deposits, but obviously they will be regulated by Reserve Bank of India. They have to take permission for that. So those who have got this permission or approval to take deposit, they are called deposit taking NBFCs. All the rest are called as non-deposit taking NBFCs. Now the question is, who is going to regulate these NBFCs? Because banks are regulated by RBI. Now these NBFCs are also regulated by RBI under Reserve Bank of India Act 1934. But there are some NBFCs which are also regulated parallelly by SEBI and NHB. Okay, National Housing. See, when it comes to housing part, NHB will come into picture. When it comes to some security kind of thing, asset finance, all these micro or activities which involve securities, there SEBI will come into picture. Okay, otherwise only RBI is regulating them, and RBI also knows that this is a bit risky platform. So RBI very much becomes strict on these NBFCs. So already RBI has come up with many regulations like categorizing them, some as base layer, middle layer, upper layer, top layer. So those which are very small NBFCs and they are very risky, they are categorized over here. So such categorization is important. Then there is this capital adequacy norm for them, asset liability management norm is there. So many regulations we have observed in last 3-4 years related to NBFCs. And now IMF is saying something very interesting. IMF is saying we have observed a trend in India. NBFCs in India are giving loans to one sector. That sector is power sector. So they checked the loans taken by power sector and they found out that 63% of the loans were coming from just NBFCs. So IMF was shocked that if you do this, first of all, you're depending on just one sector. What if this power sector suddenly collapses, suddenly does not make any money, does not make any profit? So you are at risk, first of all. Huh? Second thing, these NBFCs have taken loans from banks. So if the power sector collapses, you will collapse, NBFC will collapse, and because of which our commercial banks will also collapse. Third, there can be a liquidity crisis. What NBFCs do, they take loan from banks on short-term basis, but they give loan to other people or other companies for long-term. So in case this power sector or something collapses or they don't earn enough money, let's say we do not have much growth in India, there is a slowdown going on, there is high inflation. In that case, the power sector might not earn enough. They might not pay enough to NBFCs. NBFCs will get into a big trap called as liquidity crisis. They will not have money to pay their loans, those short-term loans. So these are the concerns of IMF. Okay. Now we've completed this article. Let's move ahead with the next part. Now this is very simple. This article talks about Wallace line. You should know what is Wallace line. We called Wallace line as a biogeographical boundary. So here you can see in this map, we are calling this line as Wallace line and this line as Weber line. Now what do we mean by that? See, when you study geography, you must have heard about continental drift. You must have seen that already earlier continents were at different location. Later on, they traveled to different location. There was Antarctica. The Australia was part of the same region where Antarctica is. Later on, it came to different location. Now, when this continental drift and all is taking place, or or these continents are going away from one another or coming closer, trenches are formed. The trenches get completely submerged under the normal landform. All these things are taking place. Now here we usually observe that if there is a landform where there is a continuous land, then species from this area will travel to this area. That species living in north will go to south, south species will reach to north because they are continuously migrating. But in case, because of some reason, the same landmass is divided into two or is not connected, there is some kind of boundary in between them, then you will see that the animals living in this region are different, the animals living in this region are different. So for example, if you look at Asia and Australia, you will observe that the animals are very much different, and this is how we are showing that there is difference in the region, even though these regions were once the same region, but still there is difference, and this dramatic difference in flora as well as fauna is shown with a line. This was shown by Wallace, and that's why we have named it Wallace line. So if you look at Asia and Australia, so the Asian part and the Australian part, this is getting separated because of a Wallace line. Okay, so difference in the species. You don't see kangaroos in Asia, right? You don't see that. So that difference is coming up. Whereas if you look at this Weber line, it is relatively different. It is showing some transition. So when Wallace line is arguing that both these platforms or both these regions are different, this Weber line shows that there is a transitioning phase. There is a transition which is taking place. It's not like both the sides are completely different. there is some transition in this region. Okay, so you should know that there is this line, you should know about these lines, that's it. Now moving ahead, a very important article, a very important case study for you. So from prelims perspective also this article is important, from mains also. Now see what has happened. Recently Supreme Court called the Uttarakhand Chief Secretary. Why? Because Supreme Court got to know from CAG report and some media reports that forest officials in Uttarakhand, they are misusing some amount of money. So there is a fund called Campa Fund. There is a fund called Campa Fund. In that fund there is some money, and this money is supposed to be used for forest conservation, afforestation, all these purposes. But what forest officials did, they started buying iPhones, they started buying stuffs for their office, the administrative stuffs. So they have misused this Campa Fund. That's why Supreme Court has called the Uttarakhand Chief Secretary. Now we should know what is this Campa. You should have a brief idea about it. So you see, let's say a company is being set up by a private sector person. So they want to set up a company in a particular region, but to set up company, they have to cut off trees, they have to cut off the forest region of that land. So let's say they need 1 acre of land, and from that land they are removing all the forest because they are setting up a company. And the companies are required because we want business, we want our economy to grow. Now here what we do is, as per our laws, there's a law from 1986 which clearly says that if you're doing this thing, what you have to do is you have to take exact same land, same amount of land in a different area, and you have to grow forest in that region. So you have cut forest over here, then exactly similar amount of land you have to buy and grow forest over there. This is one thing that you will do. Second thing that you will do is you will pay some fees to the government under this fund called Campa Fund. Now why should we pay that? Because we have already compensated with a different land and we are generating forest. But you see, generating forest is a long thing. It will take a long time. Already we had a forest over here, you have cut it. So this forest was already providing us oxygen, whatever services, ecosystem services, ecological services it was providing, those will not be provided for next 10-15 years. So that loss is there, and to compensate for that loss, some amount has to be paid to government under this Campa Fund. Okay, or we call it as CAF. CAF fund. Now this fund is managed by an authority, and the name of that authority is CAMPA, Compensatory Afforestation Fund Management and Planning Authority. What do these authorities do? They'll take this money, they'll use it for forests, for the conservation of forest, for afforestation, for anything which ensures that forests are protected. So somehow this money is with the forest department, and this is the news that these officials are misusing that amount. Okay, so you can read about this CAF Act of 2016. It clearly talks about this fund. Now 90% of this collected fund is there with states, and 10% goes to national fund. Now whatever 90% is there with states, states will have to take some approval from central government. They have to give an annual plan of operations to the central government regarding how they are going to utilize all this fund. Okay, so very important news item. Now next article is related to United States of America. So here we are talking about reciprocal tariff. So America has imposed reciprocal tariff on India as well as some other countries. We should know what is a tariff and what is reciprocal tariff. Whenever you are importing something or whenever you are exporting something, at that time if your government is applying some kind of a tax on you, is taking some money from you, additional money. That tax is called as tariff. Okay. Now this tariff could be of different types: import tariff, export tariff, tariff specific, tariff retaliatory, all these. One of that category is this reciprocal tariff. Reciprocal means simply, let's say for a particular product, let's say we have taken an example of electronics product. Okay, whenever it comes to electronics products, let's say India imports some electronic products from America and also exports some. Okay, trade goes on. Now when USA is sending some electronic products to India, India imposes 30% tax. Just for the sake of example I'm telling. Okay, let's assume this. But when India sends electronic products to USA only charges 15%. So there is a difference. So in that case, if USA feels that this is not a good thing, this is an unfair deal for us, so we will come up with reciprocal tariff. So already there is 15% tariff and you have 30% tariff. So we will put reciprocal tariff and we will make the number same. So they'll put additional 15% tax on India. So now USA will also be putting total 30%, just like India is putting. Just because you are taking 30%, we'll also take 30%. And to make it 30%, whatever amount has to be taken more, that we call it as reciprocal tax. Okay, or reciprocal tariff. So US President has said that we are going to come up with this reciprocal tariff for India, China, Mexico, Canada, even European Union. And because of this, many sectors of India will be affected. Now these numbers you can see. If you take agri, meat, processed food, Indian tariff on US products is 37%. And what US tariffs on Indian product is just 5%. Do you see the difference? Now this is something Donald Trump doesn't like. He's saying if you do not reduce it, we are also going to make it 37%. So to make 37%, they'll come up with a new tax or new tariff that will be of 32% somewhere around. So when this tariffs will be applied, in that case, these sectors will be impacted very badly, especially with respect to India. Electronics, electricals, chemical and pharma, diamond, gold, automobiles, etc. Okay. And if you know about India US trade, US is very important for us. We export $52 billion. This is the amount or the volume of export goes to USA from India. And we import just $29 billion amount of good. So for us, US market is very important. We are earning a lot of money. You can see the top exports that go from India and top imports that come from USA. Okay, so you should have a brief idea about these things. Then the next article is about ASHA workers. ASHA workers, the term ASHA is accredited social health activists. So the article specifically came into newspaper because ASHA workers are facing numerous challenges, numerous problems. We should know who are these ASHA workers. They are community based health facilitators. And this ASHA worker, this profile came into picture with National Rural Health Mission. So in the year 2005-2006, we brought this concept of ASHA workers. So these are the people who are working at the grassroots level. Now what all they do, they provide, their duties is delivering maternal and child health services, family planning, contributing to this national disease control program. So right now, if you see, they're serving somewhere around 1,000 people in rural areas and 2,000 urban areas. These many ASHA workers are there. And most importantly, this ASHA worker, whenever we talk about them, they include only women. There are no male candidates over here. Now these women could be married, widowed, divorced, anything, and they are in the age bracket of 25 to 45. Usually government prefers ASHA workers as those who are little bit educated. So if you have done your 10th, you can apply, but sometimes it's not that easy to get such people from local regions, from village areas. So government relaxes such norms if required. Okay, and they are volunteers, they are not on a government job, so they are volunteers. So from a village there will be a asha workers, there will be an asha worker who is supposed to do the task, all these roles she has to carry out as a volunteer, but government pays some amount, it's not like they're not paying anything. Okay, and you should know the basic difference between asha worker and anganwadi workers. Asha worker, they're part of this national rural health mission program, and anganwadi workers, they are part of this integrated child development services scheme. It started in 1975. Sometimes both of them get combined. In many areas we have observed asha workers and anganwadi workers are the same people who are working. Okay, and they're facing challenges. We said, what kind of challenges? They're not getting enough amount of money. You pay only 5,000 to 15,000 to them. The kind of work they are doing, they have very heavy workload, they have to travel a lot. Considering that this amount is very less, because of this traveling they are not thinking about their health. They are helping others, but their health is getting deteriorated. And what about their job security? They don't have a government job, a secure job as such. So these are the challenges they are facing. Now, the next article, this one is related to the sixth schedule of the constitution. So Assam governor will now head autonomous councils. Now we are talking about autonomous district councils. So what has happened recently? The Assembly of Assam, Legislative Assembly of Assam, they have passed some amendment bills. These bills are regarding the 7 autonomous councils which are present over here. Now, it's very important for us to know what are these autonomous councils. So, we have to read 6th schedule of the constitution. If you read 6th schedule, it talks about 4 states of India. Those states are Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. So, this 6th schedule clearly says that the governance of tribal areas in these 4 states will be relatively different from governance in any other part of India. So simply what happens at the national level, we have parliament as a lawmaking body, we have executive, and we have judiciary. At the state level also similar structure is there. But for a specific region, we do not have any special power provided to people. But in these areas, if there are some tribal areas, those tribal areas are given self-governing powers or some kind of autonomy. Okay, that autonomy could be you can make your own laws, you can execute your own laws, you can have your own courts. Such powers are given, and to give that power, some councils are created. Those are autonomous councils. So at a district level, let's say at a district level, an autonomous council is created. They can make their own laws. Now obviously there are rules on which particular subject you can make law, that's a different thing, but such bodies are created, and this comes from the constitution itself. The sixth schedule part, there is provision in article 244, article 275, and that's why the sixth schedule exists. Okay, so these councils, they are termed as autonomous district councils or autonomous regional councils. Okay, now when you look at them, you will observe all these 10 autonomous district councils in these 4 states. So in Assam you have North Kachar Hills, Karbi Anglong, Bodoland territorial areas, similarly in other states. So in Tripura there is one, and other three each. So total 10 autonomous district councils are there. Okay. Now what all they will be doing? So I said they have law making powers. So for example, land management, forest management, appointment of traditional chiefs and headmen. For this, they can make laws. Now, here I said forest management will be given to them. When it comes to forest management, they can make laws, but they can't make laws related to reserved forest. Okay. Then inheritance of property, marriage, divorce, establishment of village court, all this can be done. Primary schools, dispensaries, markets, etc. can be established by these district autonomous councils. When it comes to money lending or trading by any non-tribal, they can make some laws or they can regulate it. There will be some executive authority given to them. And water, agriculture. So overall, if you see all this stuff, it shows that they have got substantial amount of power with them. Okay. Now, if you see the membership, this part, each autonomous district council will have total 30 members. Out of this 30, 26 will be elected and 4 will be nominated by governor of that particular state. Okay, and those nominated members, they are going to stay at the pleasure of governor. They're going to hold this office at the pleasure of governor. Okay, so here we can say overall we should know the 6th schedule of the constitution, we should know about this article, we should know about this autonomous district council and its power very much. Okay, so this is how the entire document is covered, and this is how we have completed our news analysis for the entire week. Thank you so much for joining.